and welcome to KIKAO, your weekly guide on the big questions and answers on Africa's agriculture. On this episode, we discuss biotechnology, or more specifically, genetically modified organisms, better known as GMOs. Why are they so controversial in Africa? And do they hold a promise for Africa's agriculture? We'll be discussing that with our usual panel in just a short while. But first,
biotech is undoubtedly one of the most important disruptive agricultural technologies that can accelerate the pace of breeding, that can accelerate the pace of integrating genetic innovations in our cultivar development. There are excellent programs that are happening right now in Africa, but the progress in terms of government's political will and commitment to make these technologies reach the farming communities is really suboptimal. We need to bring awareness among the different levels of stakeholders, invite the policy makers or decision makers and demonstrate them at our research stations how these technologies work and what benefits they can bring in. So much more communications, intensive communications have to happen. Tailored to the stakeholders at various levels and alleviate the concerns if there are any from diverse groups within the society about these technologies and their power.
Very well, let's now join our panel led by Dr. Canisius Kanangire, who is the Executive Director of AATF, as they delve deeper into the question of GMOs and their place in Africa.
Biotechnology has been positioned as one of the tools at the farmer's disposal to resolve various agricultural challenges such as low crop yield, pests and diseases, as well as the effect of climate change. But in most African countries, the journey to deliver GM product from the lab into the hands of farmers has been relatively slow. The adoption of the technology has been plagued by challenges such as inadequate institutional capacity to handle the technology, voices opposed to the technology, and prohibitive regulations. On this episode of KIKAO, we will examine what it takes to move GM product from research and development to markets. I am your host today, Dr. Canisius Kanangire, call me Canisius, the Executive Director of the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF. And my guest today, Dr. Jeremy Ouedraogo, Director of the African Biosafety Network of Expertise at AUDA NEPAD, and Florence Wambugu, the CEO of Africa Harvests. Florence, Jeremy, you are welcome.
Thank you.
To KIKAO.
Thank you.
It is nearly 30 years now since the introduction of genetically modified technology. Tell me, what was it for? What did we expect about that technology?
I think from my perspective and what we have shared, we expected to solve our problems, just like you have indicated. We expected to solve our food problem. We expected to elevate our poverty. We expected to increase our productivity. We expected to help us in agriculture. So there was an expectation. Although I would say maybe the expectation came in the last 2 decades when the information awareness was created, whereas the other continents started maybe 30 years ago because they had a laboratory to do the engineering, they had scientists, they had the private sector investors. Our experience in Africa came like 20 years ago when we got aware and we got involved, our scientists got involved, and we developed an expectation like everybody else.
So the idea was to address some of the issues like pests, devastations, like diseases to the crop, etc., etc. Now, as a person who has been in all that journey for so long, what is the state of adoption and use of GM products today in Africa?
Yeah, definitely Africa has made a huge progress since this technology has been developed. It mainly started with, let's say, cash crops like cotton. And Egypt started, followed by Burkina Faso, and today many other countries are definitely adopted. Of course, with some challenges, but this is part of the game. Apart from Burkina Faso today, I can say Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, Malawi, Sudan released those crops for Africa farmers to grow. But we recently have many food crops like maize, cassava under trial, really to make sure that we also provide food. Cowpea is one of the very latest in Nigeria, and we expect Burkina Faso and also Ghana really to come with key decisions so that the rate of adoption is raised in the continent. The good thing is, while we have concerns that are raised rightly, because this technology is new to many stakeholders, scientists are also addressing those concerns with a lot of transparency so that we can move forward and solve the agri problems, constraints that the conventional methods fail to address or to definitely sort out.
That is great. I'm glad to hear that there is a number of countries that have adopted it, and starting with a cash crop like cotton. Florence, do we have a number of successes you can say, okay, these are the successes we have registered in GM technology in Africa, and this is the impact we have been able to create so far?
Let me say that in the last 20 years, the first country to really embrace this technology was South Africa. And South Africa, not being a typical African country, they already had the capacity. They had laboratories where their own scientists were actually working on this technology. Many private sector companies landed there. And for a while, South Africa was just the country with about 5 crops of genetically engineered crops, which they were benefiting, they were commercializing. The other countries were halting. And mainly, as Jeremy has indicated, the challenges was the impact that we are now realizing was actually took a while to come because of the lack of infrastructure, lack of creative. I mean, had a little bit of awareness creation because it was feeling like, does this belong to us? There was also an active lobby group, especially from Europe, bringing information to say this may be dangerous for us. And so we needed the African capacity to create the trust that is needed to actually move this technology forward. But having said that, as Jeremy has indicated, there are changes now. And because of that, we begin to see an impact. For example, Africa Agriculture Technology Foundation, which is an institution where you are the exec director, has already made a big impact in terms of maize. You have got products were released in several African countries. And I think that is highly commendable in the maize area, in the cowpea area, which Jeremy talked about. We have championed an African crop. AATF has championed an African crop. They begin to see other African countries like Kenya are coming with the BT cotton. It took a long time. And as Jeremy has said, because this crop, they took a while because the local companies were not involved. Mainly it came with a big, it came from literally a kind of, it needed us to build our capacity to embrace it and stop fearing what we are being told and be able to embrace it and domesticate it. And because of that domestication, it took a while. But right now, what's happening in Africa, you can see exactly what your organization championing, others are championing, the organization that Jeremy is heading is championing, Abner, to reduce, to bring the advocacy, the fear. Africa Harvest, we have been pioneers. I personally was traced on the desk as a genetic engineer for 3 years as a postdoc. But we started on genetic engineering of sweet potato and helped to create awareness. Then we started working on Africa Biofortified Sorghum. 5 countries created a lot of awareness. So what we are seeing now is like even successes that are coming in the organization is work have been done for 2 decades. Just creating awareness, diffusing the fears, bringing an African critical mass, having scientists involved, having funders, both governments and donors from outside. So really something very good is happening now. We can all be proud about.
Yeah, that's very good. GM normally it is a technology which is quite difficult, not common to the understanding. I'm not saying of every ordinary citizen, but even to scientists, this is something which requires some sort of specialization. And it came to Africa. And we needed to sensitize people. And we need to adapt it to the conditions. And then it is a number of actions which needed to be taken. And information sharing was one key. Where are we on the knowledge? From different sections of the stakeholders on understanding the technology and its application. And you talked about Burkina Faso being the second to adopt GM technology on cotton after Egypt. And I would like to say, what are the stories that the farmers, cotton farmers, are telling us on a number of years using that technology? Jeremy, can you?
Yes, definitely. You know, in most of the countries, farmers have been involved from the start because the request came from the farmers, raising challenges, mainly when it comes to insecticide, pesticide spraying. It harms human health and also it has a negative impact on environment. If you want to reduce the cost of 1 kg of cotton to be produced, you need to consider that. So it came from the farmers. You know, those people are very smart business people. Yeah, they know what is the constraint that he needs to fix to make more money. Yeah, so it came from farmers. So what scientists told them, yes, from the local germplasm, we don't have a relevant, pertinent, and good genes, but we have this technology coming. So what they told us, what we need is for you to get this technology into our own local varieties. And from there, we need the seeds in our fields so that we can improve. So farmers have been
happy.
Yeah, happy.
And can tell their
absolutely
happy stories.
Absolutely. And one key thing that definitely surprised even scientists was some farmers were simply telling, I now have more time to take care of my wife.
Yeah, okay.
You see, this is something absolutely wonderful.
Indeed, technology gives more time to take care of other things which are otherwise sacrifice, I would say. And talking of the demand by the farmers that we need this to face, to address this challenge. I think that is also part of what made this GMO coming. Florence talked about something, saying, oh, there were other voices coming. And let's take a break. And after the break, we go to those challenges. Great. Welcome back to KIKAO. There is another question I would like to take from what Flora said. You said there have been some voices which sometimes slow down the progress. The issue of GMO in Africa has generated a lot of controversy. Why?
Now, science and I think innovations are seen to have always two sides. We call it the light and the shadows. Meaning, when something new comes, people are going to want to understand it before they can use it. And if they explained and they understand it from their own scientists or their own people, many times when they trust you, because all innovations come new, they're always going to generate some controversy. Our people are going to need to ask where and how it comes from. But what happened before the local people, the scientists or us or all of us could understand, could be able to grasp the issues, there was a strong anti-lobby group that came from Europe with a very powerful voice and began to generate fear and scare, indicating this potential danger to the human beings and the environment. And when they brought that strong lobby, it was picked by even politicians. The negativity of it was that we need a very strong regulatory system, very costly regulatory system. And I think the worst part it was made, it had been politicized. Parliament had to pass the bills. And by making it political, it created this slowdown. I call it the slowdown of the optical technology. If you compare to what happened in America, the regulation became completely scientific. The organization, like let's say in Kenya, we have got cafes, I'm sure in Rwanda there's a regulatory body. In America, the strength of those, so it became scientifically regulated. And that slowed down. Those voices became strong enough to really make the government to fear, people to fear. And because of that, it slowed down progress. It took a while. And that's why it taken 2 decades in some of the areas to deliver. The products were there. They could have moved faster. But by the time you educate, you communicate, you go back and forth, sometimes Parliament takes 5 years, that group goes and new one comes. Start afresh to pass the regulations. Those voices cannot be ignored for what they did to slow down the uptick of the technology.
I now understand why it took so long from, for African perspective, I mean, for us to take GM product from the lab to the market. One reason could be those voices from the antis, and probably also from, if I paraphrase what you said, it was not guided by science, unlike other parts of the world. So I want, Jeremy, I know you have a very long experience in this. I want 2 things, building on what Florence has said. That difference between others and us. What are the major things? Why them they were led by science and fast-tracked the adoption of GMO, while they also have parliament, and I would not say they are all educated. And what can we do to get this product quickly to the market now that we have realized that it has many benefits, and that some of the challenges have even been compounded by the effect of climate change?
We definitely need to, let's say, consider 2 groups. Those who, you know, anything that is new, it brings fear. So you have people with high level of honesty who question this new technology simply because they didn't know what it was about. It was from scientists then to provide, to address those concerns. But you also have a second group made up with, let's say, a kind of competition between blocks. This technology came from the US. Europe was left behind. And when you consider Africa as a kind of market for mainly Europe, you can easily understand some lobbies, not based on science, but simply to protect a market. And Africans should understand that. So that's also one key reason why you can easily see those opponents to the technology in our countries. Now, what Africans should do is to listen to their own scientists. I remember when we started this program of cotton in Burkina, one farmer just told me when I made my first presentation on PowerPoint with explaining what GMO is and how we plan to definitely contribute to improving this cotton. He said, yes, now the truth is coming. Because this guy, I know his village.
We know him.
We know him.
It is the son of the soil
If he
here.
tells us lies, we can go straight to his parents. But those other people, we don't know them, you know? So we definitely need to listen to our own scientists. They will provide advice. What they need is a strong political will. A leader should have a vision for its country. This technology can contribute, yes, but we do recognize potential risk. So what they need to do is scientists go and check and come back and tell us. If we need to go for it, we go for it. If we need to go for it, but we take this kind of, let's say, precautionary approach, we take it. If we need to forget about it, then we forget and we move and we look for something else. This is definitely the political decision to be made, and some countries did that. That's why they have made progress today in the continent.
Also, our political leadership, they need to see the sons and daughters of our own countries, bringing science to them and telling them, we have worked on this and we know it works and it will solve this and that, which are problems that face our own economies, our own farmers.
Yes,
so
yes.
I think we need to do that.
You are right, but you know, we are talking about GMOs here, and this is regulated at the international level. Most of our countries are parties to the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. A scientist cannot start without getting an approval, you see? And this is where, at the political level, a decision should be made to develop a policy, to develop a biosafety law, to establish the authority to regulate that and provide, let's say, advice in terms of making decisions for scientists to go to the field, to go to the lab, and then come back with
and that is what makes it lengthy and costly.
Absolutely.
Now, when we look at Africa, we can see that some countries are making very impressive progress, going very quickly to adoption of those regulatory frameworks which are very forward-looking and progressive, and to bring the technology to the hands of the farmers. You talked about Nigeria, you talked about South Africa. Why is it that other countries are lagging behind when they see that neighbors are already reaping the fruits of adoption of that technology? Florence, can we...
I think it's going to change, and I think what Jeremy has indicated, some of the reason for going slow was that we needed political will. This technology needed to be led by forces stronger than the scientist. The reason being, he has brought a very important point. Here we had, like literally America versus Europe, because the American led, there was a bigger fight above the institutions. And so unless the political will was there, that's what happened. And then we needed institutions with a stronger voice to go to parliament. I remember the first time I had a conversation with our deputy president now, who is heading in the political area, and I explained to him about this idea, and he actually caught it. He asked, who is funding those highly vocal European groups? And I knew for sure they are being funded by companies that used to sell chemicals, who feel that if we now started using the maize or the cotton that's protected, they are going to lose their business. He understood it completely. This is a bigger fight than we are seeing. There's nothing wrong with the technology. The fight is bigger. Once he understood that, he was able actually to go and move things faster and tell his colleague, this fight is bigger than Santis or Helasi. There's bigger issues. We want to be kept under as Africa. We want to be left behind. We want to be cut off from a technology that's making ripples. I was helping. Another recent example I can give from Kenya is that when we had the fall armyworm, it was a serious problem. Our government sent a group of people to go to Latin America, find out, because the fall armyworm actually came with the maize import because of famine. So the problem of fall armyworm actually came with the maize. And then they understood the only way to control the fall armyworm, let's go to Latin America, where the maize came from, and find out how do they solve this problem. When they went there, they found it's actually solved by BT. They were told by the ministers, by the government. Now we have got our minister going, 2 ministers went there, the PSs. They were told the way we solve this, 70% of the solution is actually controlled by genetically engineering technology, use of BT. 30% is controlled by other ways, like making sure it doesn't break down. And that made a complete mind shift. And that's what also made things better in terms of acceptance and the acceleration we are seeing here. So political will is a must.
So we need political will. We need a critical mass of people who can adapt the technology to the condition and then lead to more acceptance of the same technology by the users. And then we need, of course, a lot of communication, awareness creation, and going to the public. But we have still the issue of the very long journey to get the regulation. So let's take a break. And when we come, we talk of those regulations. Welcome back to KIKAO. Jeremy, we talked about regulations as one of the area where we normally, it takes a lot of time to deliver this product. Why is it so slow to get the regulations approved to get the product to the market? And what can we do to accelerate? Because we see that Africa needs to feed its own people, and these technologies can help us increase production.
Yes, definitely. I should say when the African Union made that decision, pushing countries to harness modern biotechnology to transform agric, they made it clear. Biotechnology development should co-evolve with biosafety regulatory system development in the countries to ensure a safe use of those technologies. Regulating means that we simply need to establish rules to make sure that risk assessment is fully implemented so that the end product is safe. Approval before you start is key. But at the same time, I think in many countries, what delay is mainly because those countries didn't have a policy. You need a policy to show a clear vision. Yeah. The vision means that my country will need to harness modern biotechnology to transform agric for socio-economic development. That's the policy. Now you move to the regulations. This technology needs to be regulated, so this is the biosafety law where you establish a framework. You can have a national authority, you can have, let's say, based on the law, you extract implementing regulations so that the law is applied on the ground. Why it takes time? It's mainly because in those countries, the human capacity is missing. And when it's done, you also need to build the human capacity to harness the law and then work closely with the scientist. But at the same time, in many countries, you don't have scientists well-trained to harness this technology.
Absolutely.
So you have two things. What can we do? That's why in many areas today, harmonization is key. You can simply say, if you don't have something real, you cannot harmonize. No. But we think that at the regional level, we can have, let's say, a common law that's feasible. Yes. And you can simply domesticate at the national level. Yes. This is one way. ECOWAS currently has a regional regulatory framework, and we think that the other region, COMESA also has, and domestication at the national level is a way to speed up establishing national framework so that scientists can easily adopt that.
Regulation in many areas of the technology, but also create all the other aspects of an enabling environment. I think capacity and harmonization so that we don't continue to reinvent the wheel. He talked about regulation.
But let me add one word.
Yes, please.
You know, the good thing is the African Union, through the African Union Development Agency, they have established a continental program called the African Biosafety Network of Expertise. Many experts on environmental risk, on, let's say, legal matters, on food safety, socioeconomic considerations. This team, his mandate is to support countries build national biosafety system.
That is a great
The country just need to make a request, and the team is at their disposal
that is
to
fantastic.
Support.
I think indeed we needed that, and that collaboration, that working together as a continent will certainly help fill the gaps that we have in some of the countries. We talked about regulation and what we need to do on that, but what else do we need to do so that the innovations can go to the hands of the farmers quickly?
I think this is a very important question because the only way we can realize, if we can look at let's say the limited examples of success we have, because as a continent, we have made some success, but we need to do a lot more. We need a lot more because we still have great need to tackle our food issues, job creation, and all that. If biotechnology and science innovation are going to make a lot, we must create an environment which takes the research innovations, scientific innovations, and then develops a whole value chain approach. By a whole value chain approach, I mean there is the research angle, there is a component for product development, and there's a value chain for delivering impact. Otherwise, we can have research, but it doesn't deliver. And so it's good to see, like now, ABNet is strengthening the biosafety, which is an enabling. There is need to strengthen that together with advocacy because people are not aware, their mind is not open. There's need to invest now more and more in the delivery of the value chain down the line. How do we, for example, in Kenya, we have reached to the point of cotton. We need to deliver. There has to be a value chain to deliver. How do we deliver impact? At the research level, there are a lot of harnessment. I mean, I will give an example of Kenya, and we could look at many examples. There are several, the national biosafety regulations have passed a lot of innovations in terms of approval. There have been contained field trials for many years. Now, we have some areas where we need to deliver. Why aren't we delivering? We need to move to the investment now for the delivery mechanism. And delivery needs a whole value chain delivery. So we have to be more holistically thinking in investment in the people, in infrastructure, and also working with the private sector, working with the off-takers. The way we deliver even a non-GM crop, we need to take the same experience because at the end, we are dealing with a product that should be taken. If it's a cowpea, farmers have to eat cowpea.
Very interesting. So we need to develop a technology, but we have we need to have a mechanism of deploying the same technology to the end users.
Exactly.
And that call for more than a researcher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More than researcher.
Investor,
yes.
private sector.
Yes.
And those
at the
are
government.
very,
at the government. The whole value chain.
And there is a variety of stakeholders
yes.
in that value chain.
Yes.
I think that is one thing we need to develop and call all the players to work together in a more coordinated way.
Coordinated.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question now. I'm coming to that because I want to really strengthen the learning from peer to peer. What are the lessons that we can take from those countries that have already adopted the technology? For example, now we are talking of Nigeria. They are moving forward very quickly on cowpea and soon with telomeres. South Africa, they moved very quickly with maize. Those are food crops. On cotton, we have progress. Why other countries are reinventing the wheel? Why they can't say, okay, Kenya has done this. It went through all those trials. Instead of repeating all these, let us take the thing and use it to,
Yeah, there are mechanisms, you know, what we call, let's say, internship, allowing regulators or scientists from one country to stay for some time in another, a more well-advanced, just to learn regarding the best practices. But we also have, let's say, principles of data transportability or data portability. Nigeria benefited from the results of on the cotton from Burkina, just to see what they have done, how they did it, to definitely consider that in their own trials, you see. So, or you can also use this principle to skip, if you are in the same agroecological zone, environment is key here. If you move from, let's say, a dry area to a more humid, you definitely need to do more trials. But if you have the same agroecological area, you can simply borrow from one more well-advanced country who approved a crop that is of interest for your country, and you can easily skip some steps to move forward, considering the data, because there are areas where the data will not change because the environment or the location has changed. So this mechanism is there. You also have countries who are very well open. Currently, if we move a little bit away from agric to health, currently under the leadership of AUD and NEPAD, a program called Integrated Vector Management, countries use the gene-drive technology to simply find solutions to be part of a package against malaria. Burkina is leading this process, and Burkina allow scientists from the ECOWAS region to visit, to come and see, and that's absolutely. I think the mechanisms do exist, and they simply need to be used by the different countries.
Yeah, I think collaboration among different centers of excellence, which are developed in different countries and regions, need to work together to strengthen each other. By that kind of cross-pollination. As we conclude on this question, I want to ask you, okay, the issue of food security is not new in Africa. So this technology also is new. We are talking of 30 years. And we discussed around the key issues and their pertinent, which made it not to be spread and to be used extensively to address those issues. Could you, in a few words, tell us what Africa missed out? What are the missed opportunities by Africa not adopting that technology when it came almost 30 years ago. And in 1-2 words, where do you think GMO technology will be in the next decade in Africa? Ladies first.
Let's say we have missed out in terms of time really lost. We could have been very far in some areas. And there's time missed out, and there is regress from some of the innovations that we could have taken in. However, we can look at what has happened, for example, to telephone lines, where we leapfrogged from landlines literally to the cell phones. I think that even that time we delayed, we can say that that can turn also to a blessing. We avoid mistakes that were made by others by looking at what did they do wrong in terms of issues of concern like patents. There are issues of concern like whatever now we are realizing could have been a concern. We can avoid these things that we see others are concerned about, things we are able to solve now. And what may be an opportunity now, we can actually say, look, like the case of going to see how fall may be being resolved. These missed opportunities, we can use them now to leapfrog, and we may be able to actually overtake other continents because we're able to pick the very best and refuse what we don't want. And the fact that we can also take our capacity, there are things we can actually learn from others and be able to move the speed rate to our young people and to our laboratories and be able to move with them. So I see us using the missed opportunity to become an opportunity later to leapfrog with this technology to the future.
Yeah, GMO, the same.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity, and where do you see GMO in the next 10 years in Africa?
I don't want to go back to our history, but you know, I don't want neither to put to put accusation to the colonialist. But this is part of our history, you know. Yeah, we spent 3 decades to fight for freedom. We missed the Green Revolution. And today, because of poor communication, this new technology adoption is facing challenges. So this is what we really missed. And today, what we need to do to catch up is definitely to make sure that, once again, the political will is clearly expressed and converted into a budget for investment in investment in science, technology, and innovation. What we also missed is, let's say, our capacity building. I don't like too much this word. Today, I would rather say capacity strengthening. Yeah, but we have today a critical mass. 30 years ago, we didn't have that. So we missed that part, but today we can catch up. It simply requests that we incentivize private sector, financial institutions to support government and invest in science, technology, and innovation.
That's very good. I think during this KIKAO, we have seen that GMO is a good technology, and it can address the key challenges like the pests and like the productivity, like the issues of drought. But adoption of this technology has been hampered by so many challenges. One of them being the capacity, the availability of a critical mass of scientists who would adapt that technology to the real contexts. Also, the issue of communicating, creating awareness to different stakeholders. Also, the issue of having a political will which will do a dedicated effort to adopt technologies for the transformation of agriculture and enhance productivity, and the significance of agriculture in the whole economy of our countries. So we need to address those. But as we address those, we need also to see how to expedite regulations and also address the issue of investment. Investment in research and development, investment in transfer itself and address the issue, not in a lab, not only with the aspect of regulation, but the whole value chain. It is linked. Yeah. Then the issue of collaboration and the issue of being quite independent. And I would say communicate also with all these antis. Do they have better option when they say don't take this? Do they have data? No. Most of the case they don't have the data which can convince, but they create fear. And we need not to reject them. They are part of the system. We need rather to show them that this is safe. And we are also concerned by that safety because we are part of the consumers. I thank you very much.
And now to our science terminology of the week on Science Speak. And that word for the week is GMO. Well, GMO is actually the abbreviation for genetically modified organism. And this is usually an organism whose DNA, remember DNA, the genetic material, has been modified in the laboratory to get a desired trait, such as higher yields, for example, or resistance to disease. So it's been over 20 decades with many missteps and a lot of lessons as well. But GMOs are here to stay. And as the experts put it, Africa has a lot to learn from other parts of the world and also a lot to reap from the benefits of GMOs. Until we meet again next time, my name is Joe Ageo and thanks for watching Kikao.